So welcome back to the Awareness Mastermind webinar. I'm here today with the intuitive Catherine Giovanni, the angel messenger Paula Dice, and myself, Katie Nall. I need to change my name. I just realized I have the wrong name, so let me give myself a new name. Today I'll be Katie Nall. So ladies, what's going on in your lives?
Oh gosh, it has been a crazy weekend for me between soccer games and reading books and shopping at Barnes and Noble. I've been all over the place. But guys, I need to talk to you about this crazy book. I just finished the third one. Conversations.
That's a good book.
Great.
And I've been putzing along, reading, taking notes, writing my little journal until I got to the end. And then the end literally knocked my socks off. And I know there's a book 4. I know I have to start the next one. But man, oh man, this one made me question so much. And basically my head's been like spinning since I finished this last night. And I know I thought about it during the night and while I slept, and I woke up thinking about it. And it's subconscious or on some conscious level. It brings you to your heels almost to make you realize that you really have to ask yourself a lot of questions. Like, where are we in this lifetime? How do I want to go forward with what's left of my lifetime? What decisions do I need to make? Am I okay skating as I am? But now that I know that I know, now that what I have thought all along is kind of confirmed by somebody else, it really, really makes you think.
A lot of those books, well, it kind of blasts through what we have all been taught, and what they're saying are two entirely different things. Sure. And you realize as you're reading this that the stuff that you'd learned in school or in church or by your parents was, with all due respect, was not exactly how the universe is.
No.
And there's a whole mountain of stuff that nobody sees, and you can't feel it, you can't taste it, you can't touch it, but it's solid and it's there, and it's a whole new world. And that's what that book does. It opens you up to things that you've thought about but talked yourself out of almost. Because Your teacher said, my teacher said, well, it's this or this way. And I'm here to tell you, well, possibly not.
So many things that we're taught, like Catherine says, when we grow up, a Bible verse here or there, or a prayer here or there, is structured around what the world sees as correct at that time. Because and I know that when the ancient civilizations prayed, their prayers were not the same as what we are praying now. They weren't worded the same. Their mantras or incantations or even their deities weren't the same as what they are now. So I get evolution. I get being intuitive. I understand all of these things, but now I understand why I question them. Why I always felt different. Why I never thought that some of the things I was taught was right, or just kind of glossed over, that there was a whole lot more to this world than just a 9-to-5 job, raising your family, retiring, finishing out the end of your years, and, dying.
Exactly. I thought the same thing. There's got to be something else.
Now I know there's something else. Now in my heart and my whole being, I understand that it took me this long to get to where I am today, to remember what the purpose is, why we're really here, what is it we're supposed to be doing. And it gives you pause for concern, because it's a time in your life where, or I feel it's a time in my life where I have some big decisions to make. So for that, it's startling.
Now, Paula.
More than what I've been doing the last 69 years. To open my eyes, and like Catherine said, to realize there's so much more to our purpose on this earth than a 9-to-5 job and raising your family and retiring and dying. there is so much more that we can connect with and be than just that. And maybe that's part of my intuitive journey. Maybe this is something that I'm now here realizing, okay, I still have a lot of work to do. Just because I'm of a certain age doesn't mean it's time to stop. There's a whole lot more out there that I need to understand and that I want to be a part of.
20 years ago, I used to sit in my living room and I had two really, really, really young sons in those days. 3-flight walk up. It was a dark 2-bedroom apartment. I had a 1 and a 3-year-old. And I used to think to myself, if God really is there, if he really is there, he, she, it, would insert your own word or your own pronoun. How hard would it be to have a tiny little conversation with me? How hard would that be?
I like that.
So, and I looked up, and all of a sudden I see an angel standing in the tiny little kitchen, and then she was gone. And I thought, am I crazy? So I didn't tell anybody for 3 days because I was raised Episcopalian, and crazy people get medication if they see things. They're schizophrenic. So I didn't say anything. But I thought, I'm a college-educated girl, so I'm going to go to Barnes & Noble, and somebody's written a book about this. Somebody. And how hard is it? Just one little conversation that's not filled with these and thous and in normal, everyday King's English. So I go to Barnes & Noble. This is a true story, by the way. And I walk in and I find myself in the New Age section, because of course I do. And all of a sudden, a book falls off the shelf. It literally teleported off the shelf. So I walk around to the other side to see who was on the other, and they were working. Nobody was there. The book literally fell on the shelf right at my feet. And it was Conversations with God, book 1 by Neil Donald Walsh. And my life was never the same since.
I totally relate and understand, because I don't know how I can go back knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
And I was blessed because my friend Catherine sent these to my daughter. And she came to me one day and said, Mom, I think you need to read these first. So she gifted me the 4 books. And every time I finish one, I give it back to her and say, oh, wait till you read this one. But the end of this one is so moving and so on point for me. And I know every human being that would pick this book up and read it will find something that will grab their heartstrings, will mean something to them, will feel like, oh, well, that part was written for me. It sure makes you think. It sure makes you view the world a little differently, and to realize I wasn't so different after all. There's a whole lot of people out there that think the same way I do, because guess what? Somebody's even written books about it. And the things that I thought that I remembered that I thought were crazy, wow, gosh, somebody else said the same thing. So am I crazy? Have I had conversations with God unbeknownst to me? I mean, I think we all talk to ourselves, and sometimes we get answers and we think, oh, wow, well, okay, that wasn't my answer. So somebody else was listening in on this conversation because somebody else just told me something. But it happens. It happens to a lot of people, and we're all afraid to say something about it because, like Catherine, we don't want to be crazy, but she's Louise. Life-changing is the best way I can. It is literally a life-changing bestseller, like the book says, because it has, and it will continue to change my life. So, ladies, that's what I was up to this weekend.
Paula, I think it's really interesting because I know you're on this intuitive journey, and Catherine, I know that you are an enlightened. But I read all the books, and I just came from a curious perspective because, I have to admit I'm a little bit more of a skeptic than you two are, and that I don't feel like I kind of have a grasp of all of this. I mean, I can read it and go, oh yeah, I understand it. And it's interesting. And I have had what I would call other world experiences where I've heard voices that weren't mine, and I talk to myself all the time. And and I've just kind of said, well, that's interesting. And I don't know quite where I fit in all of this. I know all my life, and I think you two have mentioned this before, I felt different than others. But I didn't know what to do with that. And I didn't know where to go with that. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I love Neil Donald Walsh, and you know I love his children's books.
Where do you want to fit in?
Where do I want to? I want to fit in someplace that's comfortable, where people accept me where I am without judgment, and who love me for who I am. And I was raised Catholic, attended parochial schools, and but I was the oldest child of a woman who had been married and divorced 4 times. So as I would go to the parochial schools, the nuns would always tell me that my mother could not go into heaven because she was a divorcee. Yeah, and I remember that, you know, really important spiritual things that I learned there, like little girls can't wear patent leather shoes because the boys will look up your dress on the shine.
Which is totally ridiculous. We all know that doesn't happen.
Okay, I never heard that one, but okay.
Oh, I've heard
See,
that one.
I went to an all girls school, so they never told me that.
Oh yeah, no, you couldn't wear patent leather
Mm.
shoes. Yeah, because the boys are going to look up your dress in the shine.
And I was raised Baptist. So all 3 of us had a different background.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I was raised Baptist. I can remember Vacation Bible School. I can remember, you know, being a little girl, and there was a class once. It was Vacation Bible School, and remember, we were poor. We were really poor. But I remember going to Vacation Bible School, and we had to, the church gave us little rings, and the little ring said, I am.
Oh,
And
that
then on
was
the
very nice.
inside the ring, it said his. And that was you professing your love and belief in Jesus and God. I am his, you know. And I remember it was supposed to be like a secret, like you weren't supposed to tell anybody what the inside said. It was your not pact, but your commitment that you made to God.
okay.
That I am his. I am but now I know I should have been saying I am of him.
Yeah.
Instead of being I am his, I am of him or her or the universe or whatever word you want to use. I realize now that wording makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It does.
As to where you so-called belong, or who you want to be, or how you view things. And some of it, the cool things about Neil Donald Walsh's books are some of the things that we were taught in our churches were like the original sin. It's the original blessing. God gave us free will. He gave us the choice to decide. He, she, however, I just say he because I'm just comfortable. That's just what I always heard. Basically, I'm thinking that God entity can be anything we want it to be. It doesn't have to be a male. It doesn't have to be a female. I think
It's not. It's
It
God
just
is
is.
just God. There's no
God is-
pronoun. We don't have a human pronoun to describe what
Our,
God
our language, our primitive language just can't
Not there.
encompass it.
Yeah.
But I always knew, like, oh, God's not gonna punish me. You know, God doesn't punish. God loves.
I would have been struck by lightning decades ago if that was true. I wouldn't be here.
But anyway, that was just a little story about being a Baptist, and you know, you couldn't dance, and you couldn't do this, and you couldn't do that.
Wait, back up. Why couldn't you dance?
Oh no.
Oh no!
Why? What is
honey,
wrong
if
with
you're-
dancing?
If you're a true Baptist, you don't dance.
Why?
You don't drink. You don't.
Drinking I get, but why not dancing?
Because it may lead to sex.
Dancing?
Oh yeah.
Don't dance.
Don't dance.
The
Do not
Episcopalians
bring
didn't teach us that.
attention. You do not bring attention to yourself.
No, the Episcopalians didn't teach us that.
One of
Well,
my
see, that's the point I'm trying to make. So many religions have so many rules, And we all believe. It doesn't matter if you're Jewish, if you're Catholic, if you're Baptist, if you're Presbyterian, Episcopalian, Methodist. What we all need the love of God, and it all goes to the same thing eventually.
Listen, I have a great respect for every religion on the planet. I don't care who you worship, how you worship. You can do it upside down and wiggle your toes. I don't care. But every religion has the same underlying message of love. Every single one.
100%.
And that's what we're here to do. We're here to love on every single level, on every single topic. That's what we're here to do. We're little balls of love. Now, people listening to this are going to throw darts at me because there are people on the planet that are not little balls of love. And I submit to you, I've had this little talent since I was a little girl, and I'm able to see the spark in people. And I used to say it was the spark of love or the spark of God. I'm not sure what kind of a spark it is, but I see it in everybody. Sometimes the spark is as big as the moon or the sun. It's huge. You could just see these people. Katie and Paul are like that. I mean, the spark is huge. And then you walk into somebody and the spark is as small as a mustard seed, almost buried, but it's still there. So we're all beings of light, every single one of us. And the spark never dies, no matter how dark you get. It's still there somewhere.
Well, that's interesting too, because Einstein said everything is electricity, right?
Mhm.
Oh, it's all energy.
Yeah.
And they say that if you take a human cell and you break it down, what do you get? Protons, neutrons, and electrons. If you take those down, they what composes them is a lot of different kinds of something called quarks. And if you take a quark and you break it down, do you know what it is composed of?
Light.
Electricity. That's it.
Yeah.
Electricity. That's all. So we are all
We are.
vibrations.
Mhm.
That's what we are. We're all vibrations. And just like Catherine said, some of us are vibrating very, very small for whatever reason. And then others are vibrating so big, so large that you can't miss them. And when I think of a huge vibration, I mean, in addition to Catherine and Paula, I think of somebody like Dolly Parton. I think
Oh, yeah.
everybody in the world would say Dolly Parton.
Big spark.
She
Huge.
glows.
She is
She literally
the
glows.
biggest spark.
Yeah, somebody who
Glows.
gives books out to every child who
Yep.
writes to her. She gives them out once a year, every year, once a month. It's once a month to every year to any child.
It's amazing.
Her
Yeah.
vibration is pure love, and I'm assuming really fast, and she just takes you in.
Yeah.
I love Dolly Parton.
She
Yeah.
emits a
Yeah.
wonderful energy. There's
And
no
then
doubt.
there are the people you meet that you get repelled by. You know, it's you
You've
just
had
do
Haven't you, Catherine?
more than
You have
once.
too, Paula, haven't you?
Yeah, it just happened to me on the airplane ride coming home from St. Louis.
I
Yep.
remember in New York City, okay, never mind what year it was. We do not need to go into that. But let's say I was about 23, 24 years old, and I'd been working in this nonprofit association for corporate secretaries for about 5 years at this point. And this woman got hired. Her name was Karen. I am not making it up. Her name really was Karen, truth. And she came in, she was all smiles, and she stuck her hand out, and I said, "Hi, my name is Catherine." And she shook my hand. The color drained from her face, and it was like she'd been burned, and she stepped back, and I thought, okay, that's odd. I hadn't even said anything yet. And for the next year, she tried to get me in trouble. She hated my guts. Nobody could figure out why she hated my guts. And thank God the internet wasn't around back then, because who knows what she would have posted. And she left. We were all grateful that she left. I think somebody fired her or whatever happened. So you fast forward, and I finally realized that when you're vibrating completely different than somebody else, you're either going to be attracted to each other. And I'm not talking about love and sex. I'm talking about friendship and all these things. You're either going to be attracted to each other or you're going to be repelled. So the three of us can go into a store that's empty, And by the time we leave, the store is brimming with people because people are attracted to their. I really want to send them an invoice next time that happens. I really do. Or you can walk into an aisle and somebody will come up to you and they'll take 3 giant steps back. I mean, it happened to me in a restaurant. I thought they were going to sprinkle holy water on me. They were so scared of me. You just can't take these things personally. And it happened to Paula too.
They do happen. It definitely happens. People are either attracted to you and they don't understand why, but you can be in a crowd or a party or whatever, and you'll find people getting closer and closer, or there'll be someone that cannot get out the door fast enough. And for whatever reason, we don't take it personally, but it happens.
Tell your airplane story.
Last Tuesday, this past Tuesday, I flew home from St. Louis, and the flight was almost full. There were very few empty seats, and it was a great flight attendants. It was just a great flight there. Coming home, the flight attendants made an announcement, and I was reading my book, of course, and I didn't quite hear what they said. So I asked the lady who sat next to me. I got on the plane first and was sitting by the window. She got on later and took the aisle seat, and no one sat between us. The announcement was the plane wasn't full and they may have to shift some bodies to equal the weight out. So our luggage might get moved, or they're going to ask people to go. As people were coming on board, they were asking them to go to the back, the middle, whatever. But she said that, she told me what they said, and then she got a little closer to the edge of her seat that way, to the aisle. And I'm like, well, okay, I just asked her a question. So I thought, okay, I won't say anything again. I'm reading my book the whole flight. And I could catch her like looking over at me and then scooting away. And then she had her iPad and she went the whole 2 hours. If she even slightly fell over to my side, she'd scoot back away. I mean, she should have been in the aisle on the floor, because as close as she could get to that arm of that chair, she kept wiggling over. And she
Get the holy water out. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle.
Flight landed, and I'm like, oh, hey. I said, well, I hope you don't have far to get home. I got about 2 hours. I said, and I said, I'm so sorry. And I went to touch her arm, and she pulled back, and she said, God will get me home. And I'm like, okay. I said, I've just been reading this book about conversations with God. Oh, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. And man, off the flight, she flew just like a bat out of hell. And I'm like, I don't know what I did, but she wanted nothing to do with me. She got off before I did, because I took my time and got my luggage and blah, blah, blah. And when I got off, I saw her in the hallway. And again, she went all the way to the wall so that she didn't have to walk close to me when we were going out of the airport.
I think it's so
She was
interesting that
Scared of your light.
yeah. And I think it's interesting that once you notice what Catherine pointed out about the energy differences, that makes the difference. And I also think that it's interesting that it takes a community to be able to share these kind of experiences, because I don't know about you, Catherine and Paula, but when I talk to other people about this happen, they kind of look at me like, what's the big deal? But once you understand it, and so to have that community of people where you can share these experiences makes all the difference in the world. And we have this great mastermind that's coming up soon, and we invite everyone who's listening to consider joining us. It's going to be a marvelous, marvelous mastermind. You would receive weekly emails about different subjects that Catherine, Paula, and I have either researched or stories that we have to share that can be conversation points. You would be matched with 5 other people that are in your area. They could be like me, curious and about coincidences. They could be on intuitive journeys like Paula, or they could be like, what's the name of yours, Catherine? Enchanted? No, not Enchanted Forest. What is it?
Enlightened.
Enlightened community.
The enlightened community.
Doing this for a long time and very comfortable with what you're doing. And you would be placed in with that group. And then you would be able to receive monthly webinars that Catherine, Paula, and I would be producing, and hear more about what we have found out, the research that we found out. What we know is, and Catherine says this so beautifully, is that sometimes when we have these kind of gifts or experiences or something, we sometimes feel like a lone wolf. And Catherine, you want to share about what you were told years ago about having some kind of group like this?
I'm trying to remember what I've heard so many things. There's so many stories. I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
So it's when the psychic told you that you would be working with.
Oh, yes. Years ago, I went to a
memory here, the three of us.
years ago, I went to a psychic because, of course, I did. I think it was a palm reader or something like that. Because I've always been fascinated by it. I've always thought, ever since I was a kid, there's something more to this. And as a child, I heard voices in my head, and it kept me out of trouble. And I'd give people messages, but I didn't tell anybody about it because, well, I was bullied, and I didn't want them to stuff me in a locker. So I didn't tell anybody for like 50 years. Not kidding. And I went to a palm reader with my mom once, and she looked me in the eye and she said, you're going to start this group with 2 other women, and you're going to create these groups that are going to be all over, and it's going to be really successful. And I thought, great, I love this. So I stumbled across 2 other ladies who were both intuitive, and I thought, great, I found my group. Nope, wasn't them. They came into my life and then they floated back out again. So not to be deterred, I, went out again, and I stumbled across 2 more people, and then, and they turned into 3 people. And then I got breast cancer. And the minute I announced I had breast cancer, they disappeared into the woodwork. Happens. It happens. Not everybody can deal with that kind of thing. So fast forward till 2020, and I finally met my tribe. You don't have to be a lone wolf. We're not meant to be here alone with absolutely no help. We're meant to get help. You're meant to be curious. You're meant to question things. I spent my life in the Episcopalian Church, and, Episcopalians, by the way, with all due respect, can't sing a lick. I mean, you haven't lived until you've heard them try and sing a hymn. And it's like a dirge, man. They just can't sing. But I used to sit there and think, why? They tell me the lesson from the Bible, and I just sit there, why? And I'd ask my mother, why? Often she'd say, that's just not a why question, because she either didn't like the answer. I asked why too much as a kid. But you don't have to be a lone wolf. And our mastermind is designed to bring all of you lone wolves together. Don't be scared. When Katie said you're going to be paired up with people, I am originally shy, and I mean really shy. And I've worked very hard over the years to get over that. But my knee-jerk reaction is not to cold call or reach out one-on-one with somebody. But you are with like-minded people in a very safe community. And that's what we're trying to create, a safe community for like-minded people.
They have questions.
Yeah.
We're not saying we have all the answers, but we can share experiences. We can tell you what we've learned, or, what we have experienced, and you can share yours as well. It's just a very comfortable setting with others.
Yeah.
And I really wish I would have had this available to me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe I would be further along in my journey. I don't know. Maybe this is where I'm supposed to be at this time. I tend to think that that's the way it is. I wasn't supposed to know what I know until I knew it.
And you're not overreacting, and you're not crazy. And well, no, that's not the way the world is. No, those answers that you've been given all your life are, with all due respect, wrong.
How about incomplete?
Yep. That's a good word, incomplete.
And a lot of times it's the same message with a few, or the same sentence with a few little words turned around so that the message reads totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say it's 20 words of what God says, but the church decided to change maybe 3 of them. So it puts fear into us. God doesn't want us well. I choose to believe God doesn't want us to be afraid. God wants us to do love, period. We are love. We share love. We exclude love. We are it.
The
And
people call you crazy. You talk to angels, you know, that's why I don't use the word psychic, because it has a very negative connotation to it. You think of used car salesmen. So you'll notice the three of us will never use that word ever, but it just, people think you're crazy. And the three of us are here to tell you, you are not crazy. That voice you heard before you were about to hit the median and have a horrible car accident, but you heard a voice that say, turn the wheel, or don't go, or don't get in the car. It saved your life. That wasn't a coincidence. It's real.
So if you want more information, you can go on our website, guidedtalk.com/mastermind, and we'll have that information below the webinar as well too. But we just wanted to let you know that you don't have to be a lone wolf, and all three of us can attest to the fact that we have gone further on our journey because of one another. And we would like to help you go on your journey as well. And I'd like to point out that both Paula and Catherine have mentioned Barnes & Noble, and they are not a sponsor yet. So
Oops.
let's go back to a topic of something we talked about earlier called spiritual constipation.
I know you can't help but laugh when you say that.
I can't get it out without laughing. What do you guys think is spiritual constipation? Well, how would you define it?
Go, Catherine.
Spiritual constipation.
I know you're just dying to answer this.
Constipation to me, let's just face the elephant in the room, means your stomach is filled and there's no relief. That's about as clean as I can put it. So you've been filled up with all sorts of jargon. You've been filled up with ideas. You've been filled up with ideas from your parents, from the church, from social media, from politics, blah, 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 right? It's like that. It's like the Peanuts commercial where the teacher is going, wah, 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 right? It's all been filled up and you're really up to here with it. But there's a mustard seed size thought in your head that's saying it doesn't feel right. And a lot of you are empaths and you go on feeling and it just doesn't feel right. And you know it doesn't feel right. Well, spiritual constipation means that you finally decided to follow that mustard seed as opposed to listening to the wants. So you want to be relieved of that constipation, the negative energy that is really clouding everything you do. You want more money. You want prosperity. You want a relationship. You want a beautiful home. You want kids. You want the dream person to come down, but you haven't figured out how to do it. Why? Because you're spiritually constipated and you're walking around in this negative gray cloud and you can't see your hand. You can't see the forest beyond the trees because you can't, because you're walking around in a cloud. Now, how do you what's the fix for that? Paula, we have a fix for you.
Well, I don't know if we have a fix for you, but we are here to listen. We're here to help, and we do our best. And my definition of spiritual constipation is being stuck.
Yep.
Being afraid to move forward, being afraid to go back, not knowing what direction to go in, not knowing who to believe or what to believe, or what do I do now? It's literally being stuck, not being able to let all of that energy out. Not being able to let your light shine, not being comfortable being who you want to be and who you really are. So I see it as an awakening or an enlightenment. Your intuitive journey can start now if you so choose. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. But you can check us out and see what we have to offer and see if the like-minded people that join up with us is an answer to helping you being unstuck or moving forward. And if it's not for you, that's okay too. We're fine with that. But we know what it's like to be stuck. We know what it's like being afraid of not sharing our gifts or our thoughts or our experiences, because we don't want to be bullied. We don't want to be made fun of. You don't want your family thinking you're crazy. it's a big step. We understand that, but there's so much more out there. There's so much for us to accomplish as human beings. And there's so many gifts that we have that we don't open the door and let the light in, that we keep that door closed and we're afraid to let the light in to see what we can really do. It's scary. We know. We've all been there. Trust me, all three of us have been on that doorstep wondering, oh boy, what do I do with this? So you just have to make that first step and see if what we have is what you'd like to do.
And I like both of your definitions. And I think that clearing that spiritual constipation allows that spark. You know, everybody knows that for a fire to thrive, it needs oxygen.
Right.
And so if we can get rid of that spiritual constipation so that that spark can turn into a flame, that can turn into a bonfire, that can turn into a ball of light like Dolly Parton, like Catherine, like Paula, you know, then that is amazing. And here's the part that I think is really interesting is you may think that you're interested in becoming more knowledgeable about your journey. But here's a really important point that I want you to consider. The world is waiting and needs you to become more involved, we have so many messes to clean up right now. And I can't do it alone. Catherine can't do it alone. Paula can't do it alone. The three of us can't do it alone. And so to have you join us can make actually an effect on the entire world. And it may just be like our little world, maybe just our family. I mean, somebody asked the other day, how many people did Noah save on the earth? And you think, well, he repopulated the whole earth. No, he saved his family. That's it. That's all he saved was his family. And so even if your little spark grows into, you know, a ball of light that you can make a difference in your family, right? That's going to make a difference in the neighborhood, which is going to make a difference in your community, which is going to make a difference in your city, which is going to make a difference in your county, in your state, in your country. And that's why I love the phrase spiritual constipation. I just love it. And it's because I think I still have a little bit of it left. I don't know. Can you tell? Catherine lets me know how constipated do I look right now?
You're 100% better.
Okay. Well, that doesn't completely answer the question, but okay, better is good. And I can tell you from somebody who has been constipated for years, spiritually constipated for years, that had it not been for Catherine, had it not been for Paula, had it not been for tapping to pull all that stuff together, yeah, all I can say is it would have been a mess. I'm sorry. I'm having
I think we've all been messes at one time or another. We have all been a mess.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I think what people don't understand is when you experience trauma in this lifetime, and here I'm going to stretch your brain a little bit, a little brain stretching might be painful. You might need some aspirin after I'm done, but this is not your first rodeo. You've been here before in other lifetimes. And as you go through trauma in those lifetimes, energy is neither created nor destroyed, Einstein, but it can be changed. So you're going through life with, you know, at a disadvantage because you're going through life with your energy field either black or gray, but there's stuff all around you, and hence the constipation. So the question is, how do you get rid of that stuff? Well, you can have a power 3 session, and I'll take you back and we'll pull out a past life, and then Paula will give you a lovely angel message. And the icing on the cake is you will tap with Katie. If I had learned to tap 20 years ago, I would not have had to go half the stuff that I have been through in my life. It would have been so much easier. It's really the fast track to getting rid of the constipation.
It is. Tapping is amazing. I love it, as you guys know. Well, I think we're coming close to the end. I'll ask each of you, what last words do you have? Paula, what last words do you have for this this webinar today?
be kind to yourself. and love yourself. It's a journey. We all know that. The universe knows that. You know, the deity that you pray to knows that. It is a journey. The time that we have is a journey for remembering. But be kind to yourself and love yourself.
Love that. Catherine, what's your last words?
Forgive yourself for becoming the person you had to be to survive the trauma you went through.
Mm.
Forgive that person because you had to survive. Forgive yourself and allow yourself to move forward and become the person that you are meant to be. And the three of us know that you are meant to be.
And I would say, on another time, I think I am going to read Neil Donald Walsh's book, but not today. So stay tuned for that. But I would like to tell you that whatever you're feeling right now, and if it's joy, that's awesome. Just know that your joy, your happiness, your love, whatever you have, will pass. And if you're not feeling joy, if you're feeling depressed, sad, nasty, ugly, whatever, know that this too shall pass. But you have to understand that what you have inside of you, that spark, that will stay. And you need to feed that spark. But understand that what you're going through will pass. So what are you doing to help the spark grow? So thank you for watching. And we can say goodbye to everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye.